Isn't this fantastic? Our very first community information seminar, and we have nearly a full house. Very, very excited, and I'm really pleased to be joined by so many councillors. Perhaps if you just put your hands up. Councillors, thank you very much for coming along and supporting this event. Very much appreciated. You can appreciate this was in response to a change that we've had in our meeting cycle. The councillors are now meeting once a month for our formal council meetings, and that's been an evolution of things. One, because we no longer deal with DAs at a councillor level. That's freed up our program a little bit, and we've had a look at the way that we do business, trying to make things more efficient, and we've found ourselves with a free Monday. So rather than giving everyone a day off, we thought we would put this community information seminar on, and these will be held once a month, and it's an opportunity for us to really dive in a greater depth of things that are of interest to our local community. They might be things that the council puts on, or like tonight we'll get external stakeholders in here to give you the opportunity to have that information exchange with them. And because we are talking all about things Willoughby and the place that we live, it is quite right that we should acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we stand, the Aboriginal people, their spirits and ancestors, and we acknowledge the vital contribution that Indigenous people have made and continue to make to this wonderful nation that we share, Australia. So I need to remind you that this is being recorded, so be nice. I think is what I need to say there. I do have a whole screed here about defamation and things I don't need to say. That I'm sure we're all going to play by the rules. If not, I'm the person with a microphone, so I've got the power to make sure that you do play by the rules. We are very excited to have a couple of fantastic presenters, and you'll be able to go back. We will be posting those on our website, the presentations, so you will be able to go back for a period of 2 years and review all that lovely information that is being imparted to us this evening. So we are this evening hearing from the Sydney Metro, and we're going to have a short video presentation, and then we're going to hear from our Director, Greg McDonald, Planning Made Easy. And we do hope to wrap this all up by 8 o'clock. We know it's a bit rainy and miserable out there, and like you probably want to go back and put your trekkie decks and gym jams and relax in front of the fire. So we do aim to finish quite smartly. We will be taking questions at the end of each presentation. Would ask that you really focus in on the presentation rather than any random thoughts about anything else. Council, we love to hear from you, but the presenters are more than happy to take questions. We've got scribes. If we can't answer your question this evening, we will take a note of that and get back to you. And we'll try and move things along fairly smartly. So if you're asking questions, if you can make your questions succinct. So I've got a great deal of pleasure now in introducing Stuart Hodgson, who's the Sydney Metro's Director of Sustainability, Environment and Planning, and he's going to provide us an update on the Sydney City and Southwest Metro project. He's got 25 years experience in planning, design and delivery of major projects with an education background in engineering and law. That sounds a bit dangerous actually, Stuart. His experience has been gained on high-profile projects around the world, including in Australia, London, New York, Saudi Arabia and Hong Kong. And as I mentioned, he's a Director of Environment, Sustainability and Planning at Sydney Metro, where he's worked since 2010. So we've got someone of very high calibre and experience, very pleased. Of course, we all know that the first tranche of the Sydney Metro has been opened up, and yes, I have done my field trip to Rouse Hill, and it was absolutely fantastic, I've got to say, although it's a bit weird that there's no driver in charge. You kind of got to get your head around that as you peer down the front of the runway, which is sort of an exciting experience. And you can appreciate for here in the city of Chatswood, it's a bit of a game changer for us to have that direct line through. And when I travelled, I noticed that a lot of it is underground. So when you come to Chatswood, all of a sudden it pops up this great big vibrant centre that makes you want to get off and really engage with what's happening here in our city. And indeed, we have noticed the increase in traffic that we've had. We've had to put on extra cleaning on our malls, for example, just to make sure that things are looking all schmick and lovely for those wonderful new visitors that were coming and spending their money here, propping up our economy. We love that. All right, so without any further ado, please welcome Simon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that introduction and very kind words. I'm going to just apologise in advance. I've got a sore throat, so if I croak my way through this, I'll just reach for the water. So yeah, I've been on the project for about 8.5, 9 years now. It's a real pleasure to actually be on something, to see it from start to finish, from the planning phase through design, delivery and our operations. It's a pretty cool space to be. So this evening I will talk about Sydney Metro Northwest and where that's at with its operations. We'll talk a bit about City and Southwest, and I'll also touch on the broader program of work out in Greater Western Sydney, feeding into the new airport that's going in at Badgerys Creek. So what is Metro? A Metro is a high frequency turn up and go service. There's no timetable. If you've been to places like London, Hong Kong, Singapore, and it's very much that sort of model. It's a train every few minutes. And why we're doing this, I think you've probably all seen that Sydney is growing. The public transport is trying to keep up with that. What this does is provide a new mode and give some options around travel choices. So yeah, the city's population is planned to pass 6 million by 2036. So we take a very long-term view of our infrastructure to try and meet with that. We do need more capacity to ease the existing access into the CBD, which is constrained on the existing suburban rail network. There's a lot of stats and figures, so apologies if I'm referring to my notes. So very quickly at a high level, as you've heard, the Metro Northwest opened just a couple of months ago. We essentially refer to ourselves as at the moment having 4 projects on our books. So that's Northwest, City and Southwest, and we've got 2 projects in what we call the project development phase, which is looking at the business case and the planning of Greater West out to Parramatta Westmead, and also from St Mary's to the airport and Metropolis, which connects into the Western Line at St Mary's. So those projects are earmarked to, we're in design phase now. Metro West is looking to open late 2020s, and Greater West 2026 in time for the new airport opening. And you'll see the dashed grey lines there. They are what projects that we have under investigation. So we'll be looking at route options, very high level business cases, justifying the needs. The future transport strategy has those down as metro lines, so it's come to us to work with our colleagues in transport and the land use planners around that. And I guess underlying all that is the Greater Sydney Commissions towards a Greater Sydney 2056, where you've got the notion of 3 cities, the Eastern City, which you can see there, the Western City, which is focused around Parramatta, and there's a lot of infrastructure going in there, such as us and light rail, and then the Western Parkland City, which is very much around, centred around the airport, and so the Parramatta one's actually Central City. The thing that's really struck me since I've started working on Metro is that Prospect Reservoir is almost the kind of geographical centre now of Sydney, and it just feels like everything's moving a lot further west, so that's been quite nice to be able to influence that. There's the concept of the 30-minute city. That's to give people access to amenities and jobs within 30 minutes of the place they live within their respective cities, so they don't have to travel long distances, say from Penrith to the CBD of Sydney. They can actually access things closer to where they live. Delivering a world-class metro, our philosophy is very much around our customers. Customers are at the centre of everything we do. We're very proud of saying that, and we take it very seriously. So our designs and how we operate is all about looking after the customer. But it's more than just the customer. It's the communities that we're in. It's the communities that we create. So the vibrant places, we've got a remit to make sure that the precincts around the stations are as good as they can be. We don't necessarily control all of them, but we can certainly apply a high level of influence, which is actually what's happening out on Northwest, which is working well. Easy connections, so we've got to look at other modes. We've got to look at buses, taxis, kiss and ride, light rail, Sydney trains. So all that has to connect, and it's actually quite an integration task to do all that and have it all come online at the same time. So the Metro West Northwest line. So this is 36 kilometres of rail. There's 8 new stations, 4,000 car parks. Goes from more or less Tullawong through Cherrybrook into Chatswood. It's estimated that around 60% of Sydney's population will work in this area. It's called the Global Economic Corridor, around Marrickville through to Macquarie Park through to Chatswood. I live in Marrickville, that was a Freudian slip. So, you know, it's very much around the economic growth of the area and very much around access to jobs, where there's seen to be a lot of growth around the Macquarie Park area in particular. And amazingly, we've already had over 5 million passenger trips. That's quite a large number. It's more than what we predicted from the Opal data that we're getting. We're actually seeing that there is a bit of a mode shift. People are using their cars less. There's less cars on the M2 at certain times. They're using the buses slightly less. So that's the cool thing about Opal. You can actually see how people are transferring from one mode to another, and we'll interrogate that data over time for, you know, optimising operations, optimising our revenue from the fare box, and things like that. The other thing that this is doing is actually we're finding that there's relief on the other rail lines is starting to occur already, which will please Sydney Trains no end, I'm sure. So our stations themselves, like I said, the design quality is very high. We put a lot of effort into the design. How the stations react to the local environment is different from one station to the next, to the point where we have what's called different station typologies. So we have some stations that are up on a viaduct, so they're not out in the open. Obviously some stations are underground in caverns, so we have big mining operations to build those. And we've got a station in cut and cover, like at Bella Vista, which is a very popular commuter station. All the stations are fully accessible with lifts and escalators, so for disability access. We've got platform screen doors for the first time in Australia, and that's a very, very big safety feature. They open in synchronisation with the train doors and protect passengers from falling through crack gaps between the platform and the train itself. The doors themselves, like I said, they're a new feature here. They also help with the environmental performance of the station. So you've probably heard in my title, I've got sustainability in there. So we put a lot of effort into how the stations are ventilated, how they're cooled, and looking at our power systems, and the platform screen doors help with that. This was a bit of a historic point in time. 14th of January this year was the first time that a train actually went to Chatswood, so it's part of our commissioning. So the trains have been progressively delivered by our operator over the last year, and they had a bit of time prior to opening to test those, and this was the first time it actually reached Chatswood, which was a bit of a milestone for us. Just some of the customer benefits that the Northwest brings, and I can speak in a little bit more detail around what it means for the people of Willoughby. So it is a safe, clean, comfortable service. That's primarily what people want. They want to be able to access something that's not dirty and is reliable and safe. As I said before, it's a turn up and go service, so you don't need timetabling. The trains, as you've heard, are driverless, so they're fully automated. That might sound a bit scary, but that's actually part of the safety case. It's been proven worldwide, and when we moved from a Sydney Trains type product to a Metro product, that driverless trains were, in fact, with the level of automation we have, was actually a safer product. We're looking at targeting about 40,000 customers per hour across this network, so that's where you can see where the 5.2 million comes up pretty quickly. This is a little side project that we've had. Railways consume quite a lot of electricity, and we made a commitment back in 2013 to offset the greenhouse gas emissions associated with operational electricity use. And we've been on a process for the last few years, and we have our offsets supplied by Beryl Solar Farm, which was a first solar project that we helped facilitate get up. There's about 300,000 solar panels. It's 200 hectares, so it's the size of the Sydney CBD. And that is helping us power Sydney Metro Northwest. For the electricity nerds out there, Sydney Metro Northwest consumes about 135 gigawatt hours, which is about sort of 10 to 20,000 households of electricity. And we'll do that again. So that's just for Northwest. We'll do that again for City and Southwest and the other projects. So just on City and Southwest, but essentially and simply it extends the existing product from the Northwest, from Chatswood, Under the harbour, so there's a bit of media recently about one of our tunnel borer machines launching from Barangaroo, and you would have seen some infrastructure down at Blues Point, which I'll touch on in a second. That goes all the way to Sydenham, at which point we convert the Bankstown Line to Metro running. That's planned to be open by 2024. Just some of the travel time benefits. So from 2024 onwards, this is what you'll be able to have access to. So you'll essentially be getting into the CBD, be it Barangaroo, Central, or Marsden Place, Pitt Street, probably about 10 minutes quicker than you currently do in that sort of order. It's a lot more direct. And there'll also be, from a Willoughby point of view, you've got the new station going in at Crow's Nest. There'll be more travel options at Chatswood, heading south. So we see that as being a really key benefit for the community here from an operational perspective. I'll get on to Central in a moment, but this travel calculator is actually on our website, and you can go there and plug and play, and you can see how that works with buses as well. So I'm sure you're all well aware that construction has started on City and South West. This is the Chatswood dive sites. The tunnel borer machines, that's where they were launched from. They're currently a few kilometres south of there now. The tunnelling, even though it only started about a year ago, is about halfway done. It actually moves really quickly. They move around probably on average at a slow rate, 100 metres, I think it's a day or a week. So they move 100 metres per week. Sometimes they can get up to 300 metres a week, depending on the geology. So that's pretty quick. So if they're going under your houses, they're typically passing through in a week to 2 weeks on average. The tunnelling itself is quite high tech. Doesn't look it, but the technology that comes with this, and again the safety case is really high quality. The tunnel borer machines essentially work a bit like a worm, or a mechanical worm, where they're boring through, the crushed sandstone comes out the back, and that all gets reused where it's not contaminated, and it shouldn't be contaminated. And as the tunnel borer machine moves forward, it actually puts in concrete segment rings that it pushes off and provides its thrust. So it's a huge operation. All those concrete rings are cast at the Metropolis site and driven up here, and some of them are floated into Barangaroo and as well. It'll produce about 6 million tonnes of rock at the end of the day, which I'm not going to read the number of swimming pools, but it's a lot. You could essentially it's around about, you could fill in Darling Harbour with the amount of rock that's coming out if you were so minded. Just staying on Chatswood for the moment, Mowbray House. So we do a lot of work in the heritage space. We're quite proud of the heritage work we do. We've got a really cool program on City and South West, as we did on North West. Mowbray House was a preparatory school. I think it opened around 1906 and closed for that purpose around 1950s. It's been used by council, as you know better than I, and our contractors are currently using it as their site office. That will ultimately get preserved. It'll form part of whatever precinct works happen in that area, so it will be retained in one shape, form or other. I'm not sure about the lean-to piece at the back, but certainly the main structure of it will be reintegrated, if you like, with the precinct. We've got to protect that, so the contractors put a lot of protection in place, concrete barriers and the like. There you can see it in context with the large acoustic sheds that are now fully complete. You see an acoustic sheds popping up a fair bit now. You'll see them on West Connects as well. They are quite a strong feature. They allow us to do some of the works that we need to do at 24/7. And just staying on the heritage theme, this site's probably one of my favourites, not least of which it's on the waterfront, but the archaeological work at Blues Point. So Blues Point's named after a guy called Billy Blue, who was of African descent. He was the first ferry operator, or punter, or I don't know how he did it, but from there to Dawes Point, over to the south. We've found, he leased his house to another character, and we've found the footings of that house and a few other bits and pieces around Blues Point. When we come to reinstate the park, there'll be an opportunity to, I guess, interpret some of that work. Similarly to what we did on Northwest, where we found an old 1830s pub, which we've done quite a lot of work around. But Heritage is a passion of mine. I'm very keen to see that we do it well and take the time to do it well, because it doesn't happen every day that you do this. From an integrated station developments perspective, so we've got 5 of our stations where they're so integrated with the overstation development on top, it makes sense to deliver them as one package. An example close to you is Crow's Nest, that again, most of you will be aware of. That's actually Victoria Cross. And the reason that we've done that, if you think the station's underground, then it comes out, and then there's an overstation development on top, it's not as neat and clean as that. It's very integrated, the design's integrated, the urban design's integrated, so it makes sense that we actually package that up, and it does go to, on, I think, the usual sort of market that responds to this, like the land leases and the like. So just in relation to Crow's Nest, that's going through a planning process at the moment. So we're working with Department of Planning on that. We know there's submissions come in that we'll look at from the exhibition period, and we're working on a formal response again with planning to get that approval in place to allow us to start construction of the actual station itself. So the work that's going on at Crow's Nest at the moment is really just digging the station out. They will then hand that over to the station builder who fits the station out and makes it look like a station. For those of you that have been through Central, you'll have seen a lot of our work there. We've pulled out 2 of the platforms and I'm actually dropping what we call a station box underneath Central Station by about 30 metres. And that station box will house the Sydney Metro Central Station. Again, fully accessible. What the walk terminology refers to there is a new pedestrian link that links us to Chalmers Street. I don't know if you know the dental hospital on the corner of Chalmers and Elizabeth. We're right next to that, and so the access will go under Chalmers and into that zone there. And we've got to do a lot of work around the dental hospital, obviously, because it's a dental hospital and we've got to protect things like that. I should also say at Central, the heritage piece has been quite substantial. You may know that Central Station is located on the site of the former Devonshire Brackett Sandhills Cemetery. And around in the late 1800s, there was a call to exhume the bodies there and move them to various places, mainly Botany and Rookwood, hence Mortuary Station. And so we've had a major archaeological program going through there. We've found crypts, bodies, all sorts of things. So again, taking the time to go through that and do things properly is really important, because again, we only get one chance to do this, and we've got to do it to a really high standard. And the obvious heritage aspect around Central Station as a building itself is something to consider as well. So just with the Bankstown Line upgrade, so this is from Sydenham out to Bankstown, picking up stations like Marrickville, Campsie and Lakemba. Basically what we're doing there is to get Metro Style running, we've got to change out the rail systems. We want to put in the platform screen doors that we've got on Northwest. We will have an opportunity to, make good some of the heritage buildings that are there. There's the heritage across the Bankstown Line is in various states of, repair, and we'll have an opportunity to see what we can do with those. But again, what this will do is free up more capacity to get into the CBD. There's more frequent trains running than what's currently on the suburban rail network through into Sydney. So all this sort of information, most of it's publicly available. You can contact us at the details there. There might be some familiar faces to you here. We have place managers working for us that know your community pretty well. So please do engage with them when the time's right. But yeah, we're more than open to keep communicating with you and answer, any queries and issues that you may have. Again, I might just leave you with this slide, which I think just speaks to the scale of what we're doing. Certainly in my career, this is unprecedented scale of delivery. The timelines are really quite exciting, so we're all motivated to get this going. And again, for the Willoughby residents, I think the opening in 2024 is when the main benefit's going to flow through for you. And that's it. Thank you.